Later today, our Labor and Public Employees Committee will hold a public hearing on creating Earned Family Medical Leave program, a strong pay equity law, and also on raising Connecticut's minimum wage. Because as we all know, families are trying to live on minimum wage jobs. At our core, we Democrats believe in equal pay for equal work. And this is just a fundamental element of justice. And that no one working full-time should be forced to live in poverty.
There's a movement afoot, and the movement is being driven by families in Connecticut. The families are saying, we need paid family medical leave to take care of our families. Are you with them? Yes. 80% of residents, of members of the United States, residents, believe that we should have paid family medical leave. So Connecticut can join that movement. We can stick up for families. And look at all the people behind me today sticking up for families.
It's absolutely critical that Connecticut moves forward with equal pay and making sure that this is a policy so we can finally close the wage gap to ensure that a woman earns the same dollar that a man earns. This gap has gone on for far too long, and Connecticut is poised to finally be in a position to close this gap. This is about fairness, and it is also about economics. If we move forward with equal pay and make sure that we have policies in place that mandate equal pay, that give women the tools necessary to fight back when they know they're not being paid as much as their male counterparts, we're going to see a huge difference here in the state of Connecticut. And as Senator Bai talked about, this is a policy that will keep young people here in this state. Young people, when they're deciding where they want to live after they finish school, after they finish their time in the military, they look at policies like this. And these are the sorts of things that will attract people to stay here. Now, there were two studies that have come out recently. One of them just last week said that a woman, in order to earn the same amount as a man, has to have an additional degree, an extra degree. That's another issue that's impacting young people so very much that my good colleague, Representative Lesser, has worked so hard on, which is student debt. It's obnoxious that a woman would have to go into debt even more just, again, to earn the same dollar as a man. We need to change that, and we can here in Connecticut. And I'm also proud to say that on this particular initiative on equal pay, we have Republican support from our female colleagues, and I want to thank them for that. I think we can finally close this gap. And I just want to close by saying broadly on all of these initiatives that we're talking about today, if we can move forward not only here in Connecticut on these policies, but also as a nation, it would generate $1.7 trillion in the American economy. That's the equivalent of the GDP of the entire country of Canada. $1.7 trillion. We've waited far too long for these policies to be enacted to ensure that women can thrive in the workplace and earn just every single dollar that a man earns.
The issues that we are advocating today are the issues that we talked about in our democratic values agenda, issues that impact the middle class all across the state of Connecticut, issues that will help to expand our tax base because it will draw more people into the state of Connecticut, issues like paid family medical leave. I mean, considering the fact that the United States and New Guinea are the only two countries in the world that don't have paid family medical leave means that Connecticut can lead the way on these issues for our families all across the state of Connecticut. And the fact that we want to make sure we're retaining and attracting young people all across the country to come into Connecticut.
The wage gap is something that's going to affect me personally in less than 6 years when I enter the workforce. Because I know that as I look at colleges, it doesn't matter what education I achieve, I'm going to make less than my male counterparts. And as I look at career options with my counselors, I know that the wage gap is something that's going to persist no matter what industry I go into and what occupation I choose. It's a cycle, and it's going to affect me for the next 50 years of my life. Thinking about that makes me sad because I'm going to be working just as hard. I'll be giving my 100%, but getting 82% back. I want a future where I am making just as much as the man who's working in the cubicle next to me. I want a future where my little sister doesn't have to make $400,000 less than her twin brother. I want a future where my employer judges me based on what I achieve, not by the preconceived notions of what women can achieve.
International Women's Day was started in 1909, and they started it because they were fighting for pay equity for women and voting rights. And here we are in 2018, and we're still fighting for equal pay for women, and we're still dealing with some voting rights issues.
This gender wage gap appears, and it grows and grows over time. It starts at about 6.5% upon graduation of college. And then, let's say Megan and her friends, because they are rock stars and they're going to do great things, they're going to go on to be a doctor. Well, it's about 15%, even when you control for the specialty. About 11% if you're a partner in a law firm. So it's pervasive. By the end of their careers, they will lose at least $400,000 of savings, possibly millions.
This affects families, and we have got to stop where people work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week in order to maintain their position not above minimum, not above the poverty level, but trying to get out of the poverty level.
Many women live working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to make ends meet for their families. It's time for us to raise the minimum wage, attach it to the CPI so we don't have to have this discussion over and over and over again. If you looked at what, again, any issue that a politician would like to be at the same level and support, minimum wage is that issue. Minimum wage is an issue that shows that this is a family issue. This is not a young person working their first job issue. This is an issue for men and women supporting families and having to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to be able to pay rent and put a little bit of food on the table.